Welcome back to the Price Sell Paint podcast. Today we are excited to be joined by a top performing sales rep in our industry, Russell Godoy from MB Jesse, based in the San Francisco area. Stay tuned for some amazing tips and conversation, all sorts of different word tracks. How do you handle price objections? How do you handle it when the customer tells you that they're going to get more quotes? All that and so much more coming up on this episode.
Welcome to Price Sell Paint, the go-to podcast for painting contractors and sales professionals in the painting industry. Hosted by industry experts Jon Bryant and Michael Murray. This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.
What is up, everybody? Welcome again to another episode of Price Sell Paint. Jon Bryant here, Michael Murray, and we have an awesome guest today. We've got Russell Godoy from MB Jesse Painting. We looked at the top sales reps here in PaintScout, and Russell is in the top sales reps in North America. We want to talk to Russell today. Very impressed, very impressive numbers.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome, man. We want to learn from you, one of the masters of our trade.
I'm trying to share as much as I can.
Please. We have a lot of people who are interested. A lot of people want to know. And for the first time ever, we have a ranking system within North America to figure out who's the best. And Russell, we're excited to share some stats with you. We want to learn from you of how you're getting these stats and hopefully make everyone better, because I think there's a lot of head trash in our industry, but what's possible, we're going to throw that trash out. So let's start, man. We want to get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about maybe your story in 3 minutes. Give us the overview.
Sure. So for myself, when I moved from Chicago 6 years ago, and ever since I moved from Chicago, I've been with MB Jesse, one of I will say the best company in the Bay Area. Not just because I'm working here, but there is a lot of value here. It's not just about show up to work, but you can build your career. Like, for example, my story I'm going to give to you guys is how I built my career with them. When I went in for my interview, I spoke to Mr. Vincent, who is our operation director. He explained to us like the growth track that you could have. And this was the first time I come to a company whereby they have, like, from apprentice. We hire apprentice, painter level 1, level 2. Then you go to crew leader, advanced crew leader, field supervisor, and then you could go into a sales rep. So when I get the opportunity to become a sales rep, I take full action. It was very exciting. And that was one of my main goals when I first come out. I'm like, I'm going to be a sales rep at this company at some point. I'm going to get too old to be climbing up on a ladder, so I got to grow myself. It's the main thing. You could be out there for a little longer. And Matt Jesse, who is the owner, he used to call me the additional work order king, because I used to crush my goals. Later on, to find out in sales, you have to be goal driven to also hit your goals. So that's about my story. And so far, I'm having a lot of fun. It's having fun while doing your job. Because if you're not having fun, then it doesn't make sense for you to show up and just go to work, right? You have to have fun along the way.
Absolutely, man. That is a great story. And I think one that more people need to hear, especially more business owners, more companies need to hear. That creating growth tracks and a place for people to end up is really the mission, and the goal is opportunity. And
that is true. And having a friendly surrounding around your structure as well. That's definitely help.
Totally.
Russell, I'd love to just real quick ask you about some of your goals. It sounds like you've hit 2 of your big ones. You wanted to be a sales rep, and you did that. You wanted to be interviewed on the Price Sell Paint podcast, and here we are.
That is correct. This is my first one too.
There you go.
So a little bit nervous, but excited.
You're doing great. No, doing great. So what other kind of goals have you set for yourself? Here we are. It's, as we're recording this, it's early May, so we're about a third of the way through this year. What kind of goals, do you think about in terms of, what types of metrics are you thinking about when you think about your yearly goals?
Yes. So we have a yearly goal. We have monthly goal as well. And then we keep track of those. Like, for example, we have it's called Sales Cookbook. And then it gives you your breakdown of what's your monthly goal according to your sales track from what you end up with. And then they give you your percentage on it as well. So it's really good to keep, just not thinking about the bigger picture of the big number on the end. But if you have a monthly goal, it break it easier for you. And we also do weekly goals. So you stay in tune on where you at all time for your goal. So you not just like for me, my goal for each month is 290,000. So then I have to break that out and say, okay, how much do I need to sell a day? We go from daily and go into months. So then that's how we come up with our goal for the end of the year. So from the beginning of this, from March moving on to the end of the year, my goal would be 290,000. Last month I hit 445, I believe.
Wow, crushing it!
Amazing.
And
man.
on this
Amazing.
this month I'm on the same pace, about to hit about the same amount, around the same amount for this month.
Yeah. So do you adjust that seasonally in San Francisco, or is that just like every month 290? How do you guys do that?
It is a mindset, like what we were talking a little bit earlier just before we get on. If you have to have the right mindset going into the month, into your day. Every day you wake up, before you get your foot down on that ground, you got to make sure your mind is right. So when you get through that door, everything's just going to be flowing, and having an excited day. Have the right spirit with you when you're going out there.
Amazing. Maybe I should comment. This is a good spot to comment about goals, Michael, because Russell, I want to just tell you quickly kind of where you landed last year, which is
yes, that is exciting. I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah. So
drum roll.
So drum roll. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if my mic's good enough, but we got you. So your sales last year, which were just about 3 million, put you at number nine in the PaintScout system. That's all.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Really amazing, man.
Thank you.
Done. Well done. That's
I'll take a note of that.
You should take a note. You're the 9th highest seller, and that's there's a couple of commercial guys in there too. So good to know. Residentially, I think number 4 residentially, because I think your work is kind of residential primarily focused, and so
yes,
that mindset has been huge for you. And so what's your goal this year? How much are you going to try to increase?
My goal this year is 3.4 million.
3.4.
That's for the company. My personal goal, I want to hit 3.6.
Amazing.
I love it.
Just to make up from last year, because I'm a person, if I fail one month, I try to make it up on the next month. So for last year, I have to make it up a little bit extra.
Fantastic. So 3.4 to 3.6. That puts you, you'd be right in the top running for residential rep. The top rep last year sold 4.6. So keep that in mind.
Well, that's going to be one of my goals next year to hit for sure. I'm going to be up there. Come back and discuss this next year.
Exactly. We'll figure out where you're ranking.
You're coming.
That's right.
So yeah, maybe Michael, you want to go back to goals for a second? I mean, I think what you're doing is awesome, Russell, and we want to let you know, but people want to learn from you. So
yeah, I'd love to hear, so let's just say, how do you think about like maybe within a month, if you're getting to maybe the halfway point of the month and you're a little behind on your goal, what kind of things do you do to try to like, push towards the end to hit your goals? If you're changing activities or different focus on different things, talk about how you might treat things differently, maybe the second half of the month, if your first half doesn't go quite as planned.
Yes, for sure. So one of the main thing I do is you have to know to maintain your calendar. You have to control your calendar. For us, we have an admin in our office who schedule our appointments. So with him scheduling an appointment, he doesn't know he's not reading my mind to say, okay, I'm going to block off this time for Russell because he have to catch up on his goals. So we have to go in our calendar, block off that, and first of all, know where you're at. You have to know where you're at all times. So if you're behind, what I would probably do is just to make sure that I relax myself, not getting too much of saying, oh my gosh, I'm not going to hit my goal anymore. But I started strategize my situation where I could go on call, because then sometimes we just caught up the going out and just do appointments. But how about the hot leads that you're receiving, and you, instead of chasing something that you're not sure of a ghost rather than chasing something that is hot. So go into your system, into PaintScout, you have that bracket where it said open bids, and go in there and I like to keep notes on my stuff, so you know exactly which client and where they're at, so you could give that person a call. I'm checking in and see, okay, the last time we spoke on the phone, you said if I reach out to you today, you're going to be having a decision. Where we at with that decision, and trying to get that job closed. And then once you get that, it's about close and closure. Because then if you're getting closure, we have to be 100%. And then close is just for the win. So that there's a difference. You have to, and the quicker you could get those out of your pipeline, it's best. because then you don't have to worry about that head trash. Because then no, you're not focusing on the bad leads. You're focusing only on the hot leads that you have.
Really quick comment there, Russell. I'm just looking at the stats, and I think in terms of open jobs from last year, you are number 3 for the lowest. I think you only had 16 open out of, let's see what you had. So like you're practicing what you preach for sure. Like you had, let's see here, 426 bids last year, and only 16 of them you didn't have an answer on.
Amazing.
That's amazing, man. That's great numbers. So well done. Yeah, back to you, Michael.
I was just curious. I mean, if you want to talk more about that, like how do you get such good closure rate, right? Like again, you said that 100% closure, let's close them out. Talk about maybe your follow-up process. Do people give you an answer when you're there? Guessing you probably have to call later on sometimes. Talk a little bit more, maybe for somebody who's a sales rep and they're listening, and maybe that's something they struggle with. They have a lot of customers that they don't get answers from. What kind of tips, tricks have you picked up over the years to be so successful with that?
So when I'm at my appointment, those are stuff that I set up. It's called a next step agreement. So making sure you have the next step agreement before you leave the job site. Like for the end of my conversation, if I don't close it on the spot, I will definitely have a next step agreement whereby I'm telling the client, okay, when can we have a next conversation? Which date works best for you? What time works best for you? And not only that, but also send a calendar invite so that you're going to be on the same page and you let the client know. So with the calendar invite, we're going to be discussing X, Y, and Z. We're going to discuss if we're going to be moving forward. And I always let them know I'm okay with no. So if it's a no, please let me know. If I run into you at the grocery store, I will still say hi. So there's not, and then you give them that sense of relief that it doesn't feel like that pressure is coming out on them. So that's why you want to make sure the client is comfortable with you when you're doing those stuff. So when the next step agreement come up, you know exactly where you're going to be falling on. There's no surprise there because then you're setting that table for that. And then it's just about giving, once I do that, I ask them, because I'm not just going to say, when can I reach out back to you? And then leave it at that. And then the client just say, okay, reach out to me on Tuesday. But what time? Because I might be thinking, okay, 11 o'clock might work for me, but 11 o'clock might not work for the client. So you have to make sure the time works for her, and you make sure the time works for you as well. So it goes both ways.
Sounds like even before you leave, you actually have your calendar out. Maybe it's on your phone or iPad or something. And you mentioned like actually scheduling that. That's pretty cool.
That is correct. So we have full access on our tablet while we're out there, because I do majority of my appointments. I get done. My proposal is done set before I leave that appointment, because we do a first walk around with the client, and then I do a second walk around after we already discussed the project, and then I put the bid together, go on company cam, taking pictures. And I also, what I find out a lot that it works best is when you take pictures and you upload it to your proposal. If it's the front, the right, the left, concerns you and the client have discussed. So later on, when you're doing that follow-up phone call, you could bring those things back up to the client. Or let's say, like we know, we done one appointment, we go to the next, right? So you want to make sure when you're calling with this client, that will bring back a memory in your head and saying, oh, this is what we discussed last time when we were there. So then everything just come back like natural to you from what you're discussing with the client. And then you dig into the pain a little bit more.
Amazing, man. Let me talk to you about this, Russell. So do you do anything pre-visit do you feel like is successful for you to figure out whether it's a good client or whether it's worth a bid? Can you walk us through that? Because is that important to you to figure that out, or do you just go see everything?
So what I will do is in between appointments, I listen to podcasts. All right. We have I call it the Sales Bible, the little booklet from Nolan. And I will go through, like, just to keep my mind fresh and sharp when I'm going into my appointment. Maybe a few little things, try to remember what happened in my last appointment. Maybe I could have asked this question. So then no, I asked that question in this appointment. And I go in my calendar just to check to see where the lead is coming from, what kind of project we're looking at, and stuff like that. So then, although you might say Google, I will still bring that up to the client. How do you hear about us? What give you the interest of reaching out to us? So it's just about having those little small conversation, and then our admin will put little notes that he may get. Maybe the client doesn't want you to ring the doorbell. Maybe they want you to knock. So little things like that, trying to pick up before I go into my appointments.
And do you call the customer, like when you get that appointment, are you contacting them before you go to see them, or you just go to the job and get that conversation about the job started there? How do you do that?
That is a great question. I will say not all the time, some of them I will do that too. Some client, not all the clients, but which is good also because then how it helps is you're having a little bit of conversation with the client, feeling them out. So when you get there, it's more like of a natural, you and the client clicking off a little bit much better than if you just show up at somebody's house and knock, knock, I'm here. So I'm trying to get used to that though, to reach out to my clients before, go through it the day before, and then like in the morning before I reach the client, just reach out to them to make sure that we're still going to have this appointment and the time is accurate. Because sometimes when you go to you show up, some client will say, "Oh, I have it for 11 o'clock," and then you have it at 2 o'clock on your schedule. So there could be a little bit of miscommunication for whatever reason. But if you make that phone call, you will find that out before it happens.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I know we're a fan of that at our company. We really try to do those, like we call them a discovery call, but where we're just having that like pre-conversation, trying to understand the project a little bit better and, set some expectations, how long is the appointment going to take and, make
Correct.
sure that the customer is going to be available that whole time or things
Because
like
once
that.
I
So,
show up,
yeah.
also those are stuff that I ask. Do we still have about 45 minutes of your time today? Is this a good time? Did I catch you in a good time today? Because sometimes they might tell you, "Oh, I only have 15 minutes," or just walk around. And if a client tell me just walk around, that's when I do a no. I'll reschedule my appointment.
Do you do
Because
a
if
finger
I
wag, a little finger wag,
that's
Russell?
right.
No, 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 no.
I'm like, do you mind if I ask why is the reason why you want us to just do a walk around ourselves? Because for me, I want to see through your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to be. I could guess anything once I do the estimate. But if you're walking with me, we could get a better scope of what exactly you're looking for, so I can meet your expectation to make sure the job get done successfully according to what you're telling me. But if I do it by
Yes.
myself, I can't give you that. I cannot give you the right proposal that you're looking for.
It's a great
So then
line.
I will just ask if this is not a right time or not a right day, can we reschedule? Then I'll reschedule it right there with them and then get it locked in.
Yeah, it's so helpful. A lot of the times, I mean, Michael and I have talked a lot about this, that in the paint industry, we're building a product for the customer. Like we're using PaintScout as a tool to create the product the customer wants. And there's no way to do that without talking to the customer and seeing it through their eyes, right?
That
Like
is
you're trying
correct.
to interpret what their vision is. And so I love that if that's not possible, I can't even do it bid. I'm really sorry. Right. So yeah, it's great.
Just real quick, so we talked a little bit about discovery, talk a little bit more about like how you like what do you do when you first get there to like the appointment, right? You show up on site at the customer's house, let's just use residential, and like what kind of things do you do to like maybe set the agenda with the customer and like kind of maybe set the expectations? I know you just mentioned like doing that first kind of walk around with them. Maybe just elaborate a little bit more on like what kind of things you're trying to accomplish, what kind of questions you might be asking, what kind of information you're looking for.
Yeah, I like that. So that's the most important thing in our process is setting the table, right? If you set the table right, at the end, it should be easier for you to get that closure that you're looking for. Because if you just show up there and the client start leading you, then that appointment is not going to go well. So we have to be the one taking in charge of the project, but with not showing that to the client. Make the client feel like they're in charge, but you're the one who is in charge of the project. So when I reach, I always make sure I have my business card, knock the door, introduce myself. I thank them also for the invitation for us to come out and give a proposal to them. After I finish that, before we take off, I just want to go over a few little pointers before we get going on your project. And then I will break it down to them. And question is, do you still have your 45 minutes on your calendar block out for this day today? I just want to make sure that we're going over the project exactly what like is for its exterior. I want both of us to walk the job so I can see through your eyes. And then I want to discuss concerns. What are concerns do you have? What make you want to do your painting project now? Then also I ask my important question is on the end, just before the walkthrough is completed, is to I make sure they know we're going to be discussing budget. I'm a huge budget person. So before I start doing my proposal, I have an idea already where we're going to be ending up on this project. And then also letting them know before I leave today, I want to make sure that me and you discuss this project. I want to go over with you to make sure I'm not missing anything. And also to see if we're going to be doing business together. And if it's a no, please let me know if it's a no. I'm okay with no, but I'm also, if I feel like we're not going to be the right fit for you guys, I'm going to let you know it's a no as well. And I want to make sure that both of us are comfortable with that. so that we can part ways as friends. And if I ever see you down the street or at the gym, I will still say hi to you. And pretty much they will laugh it off.
Yeah.
And then I also, before I start my project, I also ask if they have any idea what something like this will cost. I never say budget, because if you say budget, it rub them a little bit differently. So I say, what do you have any idea what something like this will cost? Or do you have an idea what you're looking to invest? So you make it sound like something they're invested in than just, oh, you're asking for a number.
I love it. Yeah, there's a lot of intentionality there, John. I'm sure you hear a lot of the same thing coming out where it's like you're providing the value, you're setting the expectations. This is an investment, it's you do get what you pay for sometimes and
That is
things like
correct.
that. I would imagine you guys aren't the cheap price. There's always a lower price option. You're probably wanting more towards the higher end of the market, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you always tell the client, I'm an upfront person and direct. Let them know we're not going to come in at the cheapest. But if we do come in at the highest, do we still have chance of doing business together? But then that's going to help you when you find the pain, and then you bring everything is involved around the pain. So when you discuss that, your budget is the last piece, the number, because then if not, then they don't need to negotiate, because then they're already in love with you. So they don't want to lose that.
So you just mentioned pain. Talk a little bit more about like what do you mean by pain? Maybe for somebody who's never heard of that in a sales context before, like just elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by talking about pain.
That I like this conversation, to be honest, because we just had this with our sales team. We were doing every Tuesday we do a sales meeting with our sales team, right? So we're discussing this, and sometimes we go in as salesperson, we just show up, right? And you have question in your head already, whereby you're not listening to the client. You're just there, but you're not listening to the client. So you already have a question in your head. So you're just thinking about, okay, I'm gonna hit the client with this question now, instead of listening to the client exactly what they're telling you. And if you listen to the client exactly what they're saying, majority of the time you're gonna win that project. So you have to dig into that. Like for example, I have a client, and for us, we have to paint a picture, right? It's all about painting that picture for the client so they can see the vision what you're selling. And the client, her pain was every time she drive up to the driveway, she can't look at her home. She's not happy. She go to sleep, she can't sleep well. And then question for you to ask is not just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna change that. Then you throw up. That's not the right question. The right question is, tell me a little bit more about that. What are you looking to do differently now? When was the last time your painting job get done? How was your experience with that painting company? And those are the stuff that you need to find out from the client. And then sometimes the client, they have beautiful plants around their home. Oh, the last painting company come here and they just trash our garden.
Mm.
So those are pain that you look for. And then if you bring those things up on the end, when you're discussing budget, it will be a much easier way to close your project.
Dude, I love that. I mean, it sounds like you're a bit of a detective,
Yes, that is correct. That's a great word. I like that.
So where were you on Tuesday night?
That's right.
Sorry. It looks like your house needs a paint job. So you mentioned something interesting there, which is that, we're the pain leads to the price.
That is correct.
And so we know this happens. You do your job, you get all the pain, you get to that follow-up time, the next step agreement you mentioned, and you get that call, you're on the phone. Hey, Mrs. Smith, it's Russell. I just wanted to make sure you got the proposal. Yeah. Hey, Russell, thanks. The price is higher than we were expecting. Now what? Russell, go.
All right, Mr. Smith. Sorry, I guess we're not going to be the right fit here. No, that's not the way you close it.
You just hang up right away. Right?
For that, I will go right back to where the pain was. Go over it. The conversation that you've been having with them when you're doing the walkthrough. Like, for example, Mr. John, you mentioned when we were doing the walkthrough, you can't stand when you drive up to your driveway because of the look that you're looking at. When you're sleeping, you're still having those nightmares. Is that still a concern for you here?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the last painting company, when they was on site, they didn't communicate at all. They show up when they feel like. They said they're going to show up at 8 o'clock. They show up at 11 o'clock. Is that still a concern for you? You mentioned to me that your windows is leaking. That's a huge factor for you. You want to make sure that is taken care of. Is that still a factor for you? And then for me, I move with my head also. I'm a hand person on my head. So when I'm talking to them, I'm nodding my head to them so that they're going to be doing the same. It's like us matching the mirror, right? So if you doing your head shake, they're going to do the same thing and they're going to say yes. So you get them to say back, you go back to where they're saying the small yeses. So then at the end, they're going to say yes back to you. So it's I always bring it back to where you buy the paint and then go in for the kill. And then I will come back and say, oh, then majority of the time, to be honest, it goes back into the right direction. Mm-hmm. And then you paint the picture for the client and tell them, I'm going to give you the best experience that you ever have. I will make sure that this stuff never happen on my job site. I will personally follow up with you to make sure whatever me and you're discussing is getting done on your job site. Mm-hmm. If there's any issue comes up on your project, reach out to me at any time and I will be available for you. So you give them the assurity that is, you're just not the sales rep and then you're going to be taking off. Because then if somebody else is going to be doing the project, it's not you going to be doing the project. So you want to let them know that you're going to still be involved until your job is close 100%. That's when my job is completed.
Love it. Yeah. Do you find that so when you get into that conversation and someone says, hey, it's a little bit too expensive, and you bring up those facts, are they generally willing to talk to you? Do you find like people?
So what I do is I ask them, do you still have a few, like 10 minutes of your time? Can I grab 10 minutes of your time? And then they will say yes. And then I will start dig back into it and ask those questions. Is those things still concern to you, like we were discussing?
Amazing. And that probably speaks to your high win rate too. I mean, I have a win rate here of over 50%. I know when we talked before, it was a little different, but that's really how you get there, I think, is with questions like that.
Right. And then again, you also begin whereby you setting the table down. Because if you don't set up the table, then it's not going to work. Because they're going to try to jump off that phone real quick with you because they never did bond with you. Because sometimes it's not because they like you a majority of the time, right? You show up professionally. You're not just a guy showing up with just a Benjamin Moore logo shirt or something like that. You representing your company, right? You're well put together. You show up with your car. You show up on time. So they're looking at stuff like that. Sometimes it's just the bonding is not there correctly. So it's just refreshing back their memory. Because after we finish, they might have a next person come back. They might like that person as well, but they forget our conversation we have. So we have to make sure that we bring back that conversation. So they'll be like, oh, yes, this was the guy that I wanted to talk to from the beginning.
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about, you guys just talked about the price objection. How do you handle it when somebody tells you that, they're just getting more quotes and, maybe you're the first one out and you give them the price. They don't have enough information yet to maybe say that you're, higher than they expected or whatever. And they just say, all right, thanks for coming out, Russell. We do need to get some more quotes. How do you talk about from that point? I think that's one of the most common things that we hear as sales reps in the industry. Do you just immediately set up that next step agreement? Great, let's have a call, or do you have some more conversation about that at that point?
Definitely have some conversation about it, because then I will bring up, like, let's use John. Like I will say, all right, John. Well, thanks for your honesty, first of all. I know you said that we're the first, and that's totally fine. We typically will have that. We're the first person that comes out here. But can I ask you a few questions? Will it be okay? And they will say yes. And then I go back again and say, well, when we were doing your walk around, you mentioned X, Y, and Z. And if we could cover that, will that give us any chance of doing business together? Is there something that I'm missing whereby you need to see a next proposal before you make your decision? So it's not, I just don't just glide over it. I want to know why you're looking to go get the next proposal, because you just told me that you like the proposal, but you don't have nothing to compare it. But if you like me, why you have to go and see something else? What am I missing?
So let's just say their answer is, well, Russell, you just got to get 3 quotes. I mean, that's just kind of the normal thing that everybody does. Got to keep you honest, make sure that your price is accurate. How might you follow up with that?
Yes. So once they say that then what I will do is step back a little bit and say, okay, it looks like we're not going to be the right fit here. Because you mentioned to me that everything that we are talking about, discussing, you like it. Is it because we're not going to be the right fit here? Am I missing something? Or can we backtrack a little bit and go over the proposal a little bit? Let's start back from the beginning. Maybe I'm missing something. So do you mind if we walk back this project again and discuss it from the start? Let's have the conversation. I'm not gonna run away from the conversation. Because if you get away from there, you're gonna lose the job.
Russell, I'm interested. Do you have any idea? Give us, even if it's a guess, what percentage of the jobs that you sell do you sell on the spot versus you sell afterwards during that next step agreement? Because what you're saying right now sounds like somebody who's going to be winning a lot on this on site.
On site, that is correct. I'm very good on winning on site. To be honest, I am. I'm not sure of the winning rate, but majority of my projects I sold on the spot. If I don't sold on the spot, following day or a week in between, I'm closing. And that's happening recently. I've been doing that. To be honest with you, I get quick follow-ups and quick turnaround back. Yesterday, I was on a site for 2 Victorian home, and I went out the first day to do the proposal, and the client was not even on site, and I closed it on the phone with that client. But one of the reasons is we did the neighbors right beside them, but the client haven't have any discussion with the neighbor. She just liked the job that we did. And I'm like, what do you like about it? Do you want to have is it the colors? Is it the preparation that you see from where it was before to where it at now? And it was a lead-based project too. So those are that I love doing lead projects and Victorian homes.
That probably makes you in a very special category of people.
It sounds like you also probably sell some pretty big jobs, I would imagine.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I can't imagine you're selling those for $10,000 or something like that.
The biggest job I sold on the spot, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like $80,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So how do you get your price on the spot, Russell? That seems pretty hard.
Shameless plug coming.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you PaintScout helps a lot. To be honest with you, it's because then, like, for example, like the one I was telling you about, the Victorian home, they're pretty much similar, right? So all you do is copy and paste it. And then all you're doing is changing the name of it and then go through it. Because I always do detail whereby it's the front, the left, the right, the west, the north, the south, so that the client could understand how we come up with the numbers. It's not just, okay, you're going to be doing X, Y, Z, and this is your number. So I always break it out. Like I said, take pictures, show them it as well. But I'm pretty much between 15, maybe 20 minutes at max, I'm done with that proposal.
Amazing.
And then but then again, like everything else, I'm repeating this over and over. It's all about setting the table, making the client know at the end of at the end of this meeting, I will come back and knock your door. Are we going to be having a conversation about your budget?
Russell, a quick question on that. So you mentioned earlier that an appointment might take about 45 minutes, maybe to an hour. Does that sound about right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. How much time do you think, again, I'm sure it changes a lot, but roughly how much time is there during the setting the table part at the beginning before you and the client or prospect part ways and you start doing your measurements? How long does that typically take?
I'll say about 35 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I'm going through everything. I'm stopping at every point, having a conversation with that client. If they're not seeing something, I also ask, is it okay for me to ask questions? So whatever we're not seeing or you're not discussing, and if I see something, I want to bring it up. Because then you get them comfortable by you asking questions as well. Because then you have to paint your picture that you're concerned about the project as well. You're not just going to come here and throw paint on my project.
Yep. So 35 minutes pre-meeting. You get your estimate done in 15, and it's super accurate. It's the customer loves you. Got your pictures. Then you're meeting with them after. You're talking about moving forward.
I also what I do before I reach there is I give them a ballpark. I also give them a ballpark because then sometimes even if you say I go into ballpark, I ask before I go to ballpark, I usually ask them what do they think something like this will cost. And if they don't give me anything from that, that's the reason why you're here. And I'll say, of course, that's the reason why I'm here. But the main thing is then my response back will be, well, for something like this, and this is what I do every day, just doing estimates, showing up, going to client, meet different people. For something like this, roughly will be between 15 and 18,000. Is that something you're thinking about? Then either you see that, or that's way too high. So then you have a little bit more conversation around that again. So you mentioned you didn't have a ballpark. No, you were getting somewhere. So what are you thinking? If those numbers are high, what are you thinking? You definitely have a number, and I will tell him, let's have that discussion. Be upfront. Be direct with me. I'm gonna be direct with you, and I'm gonna tell you if we're gonna be the right fit or not. And then the client will tell me, okay, this is about. I was thinking more about 13. Okay, if I go on, bring back your proposal, and I come in around 13, does that give us any reason of doing business together? Can we get that signature after I finish from here? And then I also repeat to them, like I mentioned before, that's just a ballpark. It could be less or it could be higher, but that's just a number that I think it will come in at. I still have to run it through my system, and this will give me the accurate price.
Mm-hmm.
And so that ballpark is based on just like experience. You've done
From
enough
based off experience and off the conversation what we're having when we're doing the first lap around.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense.
My favorite thing to do back when I was selling paint jobs as well was that I would do that same thing, but then I would say, this is going to be between like $1 and $1 million. Does that sound like we're good business partners? I'd say, I thought it might be more like 12. I was like, okay, well, let's talk about that.
Let's be closer to that one.
Yeah, let's be closer to the one, exactly. And so I think what's funny in this discussion is it doesn't matter the numbers. If you just ballpark, like give them a range, even if it's funny, it is worth doing because it gets you talking about the price.
That is correct. That's my MO on it. It's not just to say, okay, that's the number. Because everybody have a number, right? But it's just to getting that conversation going about the budget part. And then you will later on when you come back in, now you have that better conversation with it.
Oh, dude. Yeah, this is great. Russell, I think we're going to wrap this up here today, but it has been awesome to chat with you. I mean, you have a fantastic system. Your results last year were phenomenal. I'm cheering for you to be number 1 on PaintScout this year. I think you're pretty close. Interestingly enough, we're going to start getting rankings out to people pretty quickly, so you can see that on a monthly basis, how you're doing. But there is so much people can learn from you, Russell. You're a wealth of knowledge. Your story's great, going from being a painter to now being one of the top sales reps here in North America.
Right.
You should be proud of yourself. It's fun to talk to you. And so Michael, any closing thoughts on your end?
No, yeah, you're crushing it. I personally learned a lot. I'm excited, to our sales team to listen to this conversation. I hope everybody that listens takes a lot away just from like the way that you answer things and how intentional you are, especially like, again, talking about setting that table, having that like really in-depth conversation at the beginning of the appointment is going to make everything a little bit easier once you get to the end. We've done a good job of setting expectations and, having an agenda, having these more direct conversations about pain and what the customer's expectations are. Those are some of my takeaways. I'm, excited to, talk with our team about how we can do better based on this conversation. So yeah, definitely appreciate your time.
And close on the spot. My goodness.
Thank you guys for your time as well.
Thank you, Russell. All right, guys.
Awesome. Keep it up.
As always, if this has been helpful, feel free to like, subscribe. We are happy to tell a friend. As long as we have one fan, we're making a difference. So we thank you for your time. Leave some comments for us. Let us know what you think, and tune in next time.
This podcast is proudly powered by PaintScout, your partner in painting success.